Thoracotomy is a plasma exchange in Hello, I'm
I
audible,
think
sir?
your network had a problem, I think. If you can
Okay,
repeat
sir.
that once again. Yeah.
Yes. So plasmapheresis or apheresis. What is this apheresis? This apheresis is nothing but a technique by which a particular substance or a component is removed from the blood, and then the main volume is being returned back to the body. We have different apheresis applications such as removal of plasma, constitutes plasma apheresis. Also cytopheresis, that is it includes platelet pheresis, leukapheresis, erythrocytopheresis, that is removal of platelets, leukocytes and RBCs. Also, very rare occasions we have also have photopheresis and selective plasma adsorption, that is LDL apheresis. That's in cases of hypercholesterolemia, more than 1000 LDL, we are also do the benefit of plasma exchange is documented. The, coming to the definition of this therapeutic plasma exchange, this is defined as an extracorporeal treatment. Extracorporeal means it's happening outside the body that can be performed either by a centrifugation or a filtration method and is designed for the removal of plasma along with the pathogenic substance such as antibodies, immune complex or large molecular weight substance such as plasma.
Dr. Limesh,
Yes, sir.
there's some background noise. Can you use your earphones?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One second.
Sure.
In In the therapeutic plasma exchange, you're using centrifugation. The whole blood is pumped into a rapidly rotating suppression chamber and the component separates into layers based on their density. Plasma layer is removed and discarded and the remaining cellular elements are mixed with the replacement fluid and returned back to the patient. We'll come back in the subsequent slides how this happens. And in the membrane filter, which commonly the nephrologist uses, we use a secondary membrane plasma filtration, fractionation, where the undesired macromolecules will be removed, which then allows the processed plasma to be returned back to the patient or being the donor plasma being returned back to the patient. So this is the centrifugal method of plasma separation where the blood enters this machine at the rotations around 8,000 to 10,000 rotations per minute. The blood is based on the specific gravity. It is segregated into plasma or the lymphocytes and the RBCs. As we can see, the plasma is in this yellow thing and it comes out through the this one, and WBCs and RBCs are out, and the whole blood is infused through here. This is the membrane dialyzer, which commonly the nephrologist uses, where the blood is drawn from the patient either through a central line or a peripheral line, and it exchanges into the membrane, where the plasma with isolated toxins are discarded, and the remaining RBCs, WBCs are safely transfused back into the patient. This constitutes basically the membrane plasma exchange. We have a few advantages of this membrane apheresis, being it being a fast and efficient plasmapheresis. There is no need for a citrate anticoagulation to be used. Can be adapted for a cascade filtration. Cascade means is multiple level of plasma exchange and removal of substances limited by sieving coefficient of the membrane. Sieving coefficient is nothing but the pore size of the membrane. Higher the pore size, even the molecules such as albumin will also be lost. The smaller the pore size, the albumin will not be exchanged with that. And we have a few disadvantages. We are unable to remove the RBCs or WBCs. That is, we cannot do cytopheresis with this membrane apheresis. It requires high blood flows and the insertion of a central venous access, either through a jugular line or a femoral line, and it requires an heparin anticoagulation, limiting in bleeding disorders. What about the centrifugal device? It has a good advantage of performing a cytopheresis. There is no need for heparin and more efficient for removing all the plasma components. Well, it has its own disadvantage. It has been expensive. The machine itself costs you around 15 to 18 lakhs, and per session of dialysis for the per session of the plasma exchange, it constitutes around 18 to 22,000. So the whole 5 settings of plasma exchange with this centrifugal device comes to around 1.2 to 1.5 lakhs. And also it requires citrate anticoagulation and loss of platelets. This is how a machine apheresis looks like. This is, you can usually see it in the hematology lab, where they'll be using to extract the plasma from the donors, and or the RBCs or the WBCs can be extracted through this machine apheresis. How does it works? Well, the blood enters through the blood is taken out from this patient, and it enters through this centrifuge bowl. As you can see it, in this centrifuge bowl, the blood is blood centrifuges itself, or it divides itself into plasma, WBCs, and the RBCs, and the waste, that is the toxin substance or the immune complex or the antibodies which has to be removed, it is discarded through this waste bag, and the remaining is safely infused back into the patient. Or we can have an extra substitution line. If the patient is in hypotension, we can give him extra saline or any extra FFPs, or if any extra, this can be given through this substitution line. This is how this bowl looks. As the blood flows through here, it is separated into a plasma and the red blood. This plasma is discarded, and through a separate substitution line, the fresh frozen plasma or the fresh plasma is infused back to the patient. So how do we calculate the plasma volume? The total plasma volume to be removed is calculated by obtaining the total blood volume multiplied by 100% minus hematocrit of the patient. As we know, the total blood volume in a human is somewhere around 5.5 to 7.5% of body mass, and may be estimated at 70 ml per kg body weight for males and 65 ml per kg for females. For example, for a 70 kilo male with a hematocrit of 40%, the total blood volume will be 70 into 70, that constitutes 4,900 ml. If for the total plasma exchange to be removed, it is 4,900 into 100 minus 40, that comes approximately 300 ml, 3 liters. Or we have other few equations. It's a bit complicated equation, a Kaplan's equation. It is given by the formula 0.065 into body weight in kilos into 1 minus hematocrit. Or what we nephrologists follow is a rule of thumb, where we follow it as 35 to 50 ml per kg body weight per session of plasma exchange. That's a rule of thumb. We use that 35 to 50 ml per kg body weight for per session of plasma apheresis. A typical course of plasma exchange consists of 3 to 5 exchanges of 1 to 1.5 volumes each, with an interval of 1 to 2 days between the procedures, depending upon the discretion of the treating physician. If the physician asks us to do daily, we are going to perform them daily, or if they ask us to do on alternate day basis, we are going to perform on alternate basis depending upon the clinical scenario. So what is the replacement fluid which is used? So as we understand that we are going to remove 1.5 liters of plasma from the patient. If we remove from 1.5 liters of plasma, obviously the patient will develop some hypotension. To prevent that, we have various replacement fluids such as 5% albumin. It is the most commonly used replacement fluid. We usually use 20% injection human albumin. It will be diluted usually in 2 liters normal saline, making up the total volume of somewhere around 2 liters. We use that as the most common replacement fluid for the cost effectiveness. Or if the patient is having some coagulopathy, we also use fresh frozen plasma to replace the clotting factors, or a cryo poor plasma can also be used in very rare circumstances. As we know, as I was discussing with you, when the blood comes in contact with this membrane or a centrifugation machine, the blood tends to get clotted. To prevent this clotting, we use anticoagulant. We have 2 types of anticoagulant which we commonly use. This one is the citrate, and the next one is the heparin. Citrate, we commonly see it in the blood banks. It's a short acting, and we usually prescribe it depending upon the blood flow, how much we want. Major advantages, there is no systemic anticoagulation effect. But there is a risk of citrate toxicity. Citrate toxicity is nothing but it will chelate the calcium and tends to have hypocalcemia as a major side effect, and is suitable for low flow circuits. Heparin, we commonly use it in the dialysis settings. The 5,000 unit or the 25,000 unit vials are available. It's a long acting, usually acts for 6 to 8 hours, and we usually prescribe it per kg body weight. That is 100 to 150 units per kg body weight per session of plasma exchange. And it carries a risk of bleeding and very rarely heparin induced thrombocytopenia, and is suitable for high flow circuits. What happens to the body when the patient is undergoing plasma exchange? We see various pathophysiological changes that happens in this plasma exchange. The most common we see is the hypocalcemia because of this acid citrate anticoagulation which we use. This citrate, it chelates the calcium and the patient tends to develop severe hypocalcemia. So we have to monitor the calcium, and we usually replace the calcium with a separate IV line, or during the infusion itself we give calcium for the patients. This hypocalcemia usually manifests as a perioral or peripheral paresthesias. Severe cases of hypocalcemia may cause continuous muscle contraction. If not corrected, it may lead to tetany or laryngospasm or grand mal seizures, or even very rarely we can see Chauvet-Stokes signs. Other electrolyte imbalances we see is the hypokalemia, usually about 0.2 milliequivalents of reduction in potassium with albumin we see, or up to 0.7 with FFPs. Usually we don't see any change with either with sodium or glucose, but bicarbonate decreases by 6 milliequivalents and chloride increases by 4 milliequivalents with albumin, and this reverses with this whole thing reverses with fresh frozen plasma. So if we look at the protein kinetics, as we all know, the various antibodies, IgM is predominantly intravascular, which constitutes nearly 76% of the is intravascular. Remaining for IgG is 45% intravascular, and 40% of albumin is intravascular. And hence we can see IgM is removed more efficiently than IgG, but both re-equilibrate within 1 or 2 days. To effectively deplete total IgG by 85%, it requires at least 5 exchanges every second day for IgG, but only 2 to 3 exchanges for IgM. The effect of plasma exchange is temporary. The T-off is around 21 for IgG is 21 days, and IgM is 7 to 10 days, which usually rebounds back when the plasma setting is completed. So as we discussed, the IgG drops by 34% with one plasma exchange, and IgA drops by 39%, whereas IgM drops by 31%, and the range of recovery is somewhere around 3 to 5. Hello? Hello?
Dr. Ramesh, go ahead, continue.
Audible,
please
sir?
Continue. Yes,
okay,
yes.
Yeah. So most non-immunoglobulin proteins recover to nearly 100% of the baseline within 2 to 3 days after a plasma exchange. Along with this plasma exchange, we also use steroids or cyclophosphamide, which also reduce, which help in the contribution of the recovery of the immunoglobulins or total plasmapheresis. What happens with the other coagulation parameters? When the plasma is exchanged for a non-plasma replacement solution, coagulopathy is a potential problem. We see a prothrombin time to red increase by 30%, APT to increase by 100%, and fibrinogen level may decrease by 25%. Platelets reduce, resulting from the adherence of the surface of the apheresis circuit, and is usually modest, and levels quickly return to the baseline after the completion of plasma exchange. These changes revert towards normal within several hours, except which record baseline only 2 to 3 days after that. Other coagulant proteins are fibrinogen. With one plasma exchange, it reduces to 25% pre-treatment level, and with consecutive daily plasma exchange, it reduced to 10 to 30% of the pre-treatment level. And the recovery is almost 100% of pre-treatment level by 2 to 3 days. Prothrombin time reduced by 30%. Similarly, factors 7 and 8 also reduced by 45%, 45 to 50% of the baseline. Factor 9 decreases to 60%, and factor 5, 10, and 11 reduced by approximately 40% of the baseline. And antithrombin 3 activity, it it reduced to 40% to 100% of the pre-treatment level by 2 to 3 days. We also see few hemodynamic changes when the plasma exchange is performed. When the patient is either in cardiac failure or in the renal failure, we usually encounter a fluid overload state. Usually what we do is, when the patient is on dialysis, first we initially perform the dialysis so that the patient is euvolemic, and then we go ahead with the plasma exchange. In other situations, apart from cardiac or renal, hypovolemia may be a concern, because we are going to remove 1.5 liters of fluid from the patient. Obviously, the patient may develop hypotension. So we make sure that the patient doesn't develop hypotension by infusing with separate IV saline. There are also a few other cellular losses that can happen during this plasmapheresis. As large volume of donor patient blood circulates through an apheresis device, blood cells are intentionally or accidentally removed. It could be some blood within the circuit itself when it being discarded. In that also, the RBCs or WBCs can be lost. Apheresis is only modestly, it reduces in the moderate quantities the decreasing blood cells, which are not associated with any immediate toxicity. Small amount of red RBCs is lost in the apheresis circuit, which is well tolerated. So how this plasmapheresis helps in various disorders is, it may remove autoantibodies or an alloantibodies or immune complex, cryoglobulins, myeloma proteins, prothrombin factors, or lipoproteins, or protein-bound toxins or drugs. Or it can also have an effect on the immune system. It may help to remove the complement products, and directly or indirectly it may have an effect on the immune system and tends to improve the reticuloendothelial functions. It may also help us to replace the deficient plasma factors. These are the various mechanisms through which the plasmapheresis helps in these various neurological disorders. So what are the indications? As we, sorry for this busy slide, as we see, name any organ, we can do plasmapheresis in any autoimmune disorders. As the audience here is predominantly neurologist, I will stick on to the neurological disorders, where most commonly used is, where the neurologist calls us to perform the plasmapheresis, myasthenia gravis, very rarely multiple sclerosis or CIDP. Very commonly we do for GB syndrome, Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and other syndromes. Well, American Society for Apheresis, they have listed as categories, as category 1, 2, 3, 4 respectively, where apheresis is accepted as a first line as category 1, second line as category 2, and category 3 as an optimal role of apheresis, where it is not established. Decision should be individualized at the discretion of the treating physician. Or category 4, disorder in which the published evidence demonstrates or suggests apheresis to be ineffective or harmful. These are few diseases where plasma exchange has been shown to be benefit, where the category 1 includes GB syndrome, CIDP, polyneuropathy associated with IgA1 monoclonal gammopathy, or myasthenia gravis. It is mainly to the discretion of the treating neurologist to. Hello. Hello.
So your slides went back.
I don't know what reason it went back, sir.
You can move forward.
Yes, sir. So it is mainly up to the treating discretion.
We don't see the slides.
Oh, it went off, sir.
Can you reload once?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So it's mainly up to the discretion of the treating neurologist, where the plasma exchange. But the most common disorders which we are called for is the AIDP or myasthenia gravis. So what are the complications which we usually encounter when the patient is undergoing plasmapheresis? Is usually we see a citrate-induced hypocalcemia or metabolic alkalosis with this machine apheresis. Very rarely vasovagal reactions with these FFPs, or problem related to a vascular access such as hematomas, venous sclerosis or thrombosis, allergic reactions either to the dialyzer membrane or the tubings or to the FFPs itself, an anaphylactic reaction to the plasma or various drug interactions. He very rarely hemolysis and air embolism, hypotensions, infections, coagulation abnormalities, and transfusion related acute lung injury, hypothermia, and pyrogenic reactions. There are few contraindications for the plasmapheresis. That is, for those patients who cannot tolerate a central line placement, patients who are actively septic or are hemodynamically unstable, patients who are allergic to fresh frozen plasma or albumin depending upon the type of plasma exchange. Patient with heparin allergies should not receive heparin as an anticoagulant during plasma exchange. Or patient with hypercalcemia at a higher risk for worsening of their conditions because citrate is commonly used to prevent clotting and it can potentiate hypocalcemia. So only the practical aspect of this plasma exchange I have covered here. I have not gone into the details of any studies which have been done in various neurological disorders. With this, I'm completing the presentation. Thank you. I'll be happy to take any questions.